Oh, all righty, get this set up here. Are we good? Are we about even? Julia, maybe move forward just a tiny bit so that our heads are equal-sized. Hello and welcome everybody to Coffee Conversations. We had a little bit of a day change. Usually we do this on Wednesdays, and due to both of our schedule, we are here with you on Friday. And I am just so honored and excited to be here with my friend of many years. Pre-baby,
yeah.
Pre-marriage.
Pre-marriage. It's been a long time.
Yes, and we are both the mothers of 3 grown sons. So yay for boy moms. And hopefully those of you that are joining us know that Coffee Conversations is really all about bringing beauty and wellness into the lives of women so that we can be empowered to bring those same things into the lives of the world around us, really.
Absolutely.
And so Julia is many things, and but really she's going to be talking to us about some of those things that are on her heart, but really about how she's evolved into a watercolor artist. And so, Julia, just as we're getting started here, tell us a little bit about your background. You know, I went on your website and I was reading a little bit about your bio, on your bio, and you had this concept of, I love the word journey, and it was funny because you talked kind of about bringing a, I don't know if it was a suitcase. I kind of had a vision of a hobo with the bag.
That's a difference between I had a Mary Poppins bag.
You had a Mary Poppins bag. I had the hobo bag. But tell us a little bit about your background and how you've kind of come to this place in your life.
So hi, and I just want to thank you so much for interviewing me. It's kind of fun. It feels really weird to be on Facebook Live. But anyway, oh gosh. I have a degree in landscape architecture, and I did that, and I was in the corporate world doing land planning for a lot of times, but also mostly I just was doing graphics. It sounds like a nice fancy title, but I colored a lot. And
that.
Yeah, those maps you see in the model homes, we used to make those by hand, and so I did a lot of that. And then I also did some residential garden design, and then I had kids, and I had to kind of put everything on the back burner, and I was always like into crafts and like just doing stuff. I'm kind of like a doodler. I like to draw in my spare time, but I wasn't ever like really super good at it. But I had been to this lady's house, and it was in the South when I was in college, and she had 3 portraits of her kids over her credenza in the dining room, and I was so impressed by those pictures. I'm like, wow, like you got pictures, you got your kids painted, and it just stuck with me, and I always wanted to have my kids painted. And so whenever I was older and had kids, so anyway, time came, and we knew this gal, and she was taking watercolor classes at Saddleback Community College, and she was doing children portraits, and I'm like, great, this is it. So I was able to get pictures of my sons, and I've just loved them ever since. But she only did 2 of them, and then I had Josh, and he came along, and she wasn't doing them anymore, so I had to find somebody else. Well, I found somebody at like an art walk thing, and she came over to my house like to get started on it. She brought these binders full of these portraits of kids that she had done. They were like $450 something at that time for a portrait, and I was like, wow, like that's pretty good. Like maybe after I'm done with raising my kids, I could investigate and see maybe I could do that. That sounds like a fun job. So fast forward after years of just being a stay-at-home mom, I was kind of, my husband was kind of like, okay, like you're going to get out there and make some money.
Contribute.
I know,
Retirement's around the corner.
You know, I really want to investigate this art thing. I wonder if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it. Can I just have a year and take some classes? And he's like, all right. So I went down to Saddleback, and I started taking some watercolor classes, and I got, you know, it came pretty easy to me. Not totally easy, but anyway, yeah, I was getting good feedback from what I was doing. And so after that year came up, I just kind of like kept going and kept trying it. So that was kind of how I got into it. I guess.
Yeah, and first of all, when you said I was just a stay-at-home mom, we are never just stay-at-home moms, especially
too busy to do anything else.
Especially with 3 sons, right? It's
absolutely.
like, life is crazy.
Yeah.
And again, so talk to us a little bit about that kind of metaphor of the journey and I loved specifically some of the words that you talked about. This bag that has certain tools. And
so when I was trying to kind of figure out what I wanted to do with the next step of my life, I had a book somebody had given me, and it's been sitting on my bookshelf for years, and I never read it, but it was Max Lucado, Cure for the Common Life. Mm-hmm. And I saw it one day, and I just took it off the shelf, and I started looking at it, and I was reading it, and it had all this stuff about kind of trying to figure out what your purpose is and all that. And so there's a section in the back, like all books, like we read, they always have all these questions in the back, and usually we read them and then we put them away. But he suggested just pause for like 4 or 5 days and just sit down and do this. Mm-hmm. And I did, and it really helped me. But he's the one that introduced the idea of the journey and the bag. And I don't even know if it was original to him. I'm sure it's not. But I always like to look at my life in a metaphor, and that kind of helps me just because I'm super visual. So that really helped. And I just thought about all the things that I have had and I've used over the course of the years out of that bag. But then there was I knew there was paintbrushes in there too. Yeah. I just hadn't used them yet. So it was time to pull it out and be okay, it's your turn. Let's see what we can do with this. Yeah. So that's where.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
The other thing, Julia, I was thinking with your background, landscape design, I know that was one thing that really bonded us because I'm not a landscape designer.
Oh my gosh,
but I love gardening. Yeah. And so it was really fun to I know we had even at one point kind of thought, maybe we should do a business together.
There's this little entrepreneurial thing going on always in the background, I guess.
So we have lots and lots of things in common, and I think a huge thing that we have in common is I think we both have hearts of being encouragers. Yeah. And again, like I said, that really is when I was thinking of coffee conversations, I thought, I have just the privilege being in the entrepreneurial space of interacting with so many remarkable women, and we were just talking about that. We all are people of story, and when you just actually take the time and get to know someone, everyone has so much to contribute. And I just thought this was such a great format to elevate all of us in our quote ordinariness to be, to really put the light on that extraordinary part of all of us. So talk to me a little bit about, or talk to us about how you really see your painting as a medium for encouragement and for lifting other people up.
Right. Well, when I first started doing this, I just knew a lot of women that were in that same boat as me, transitioning, out of full-time motherhood or whatever, and just trying to figure out what to do next. And I thought, I want to be an inspiration to those women. Look, if they were ever to think, which they probably don't think about what I'm doing, but if they did, look at Julia. She, at the ripe old age of 50 something, she went back to school and she learned a totally new skill. Yeah. And she's out there and she's doing stuff with it, and I could do that too. It doesn't mean just because we're older and we're kind of done with this phase that we're just done. Right. I didn't get this far to come just this far. I want to do more with my life, and so I just wanted to do it as not just for me. I like doing it for me too, but I always have hoped that maybe other people would be inspired to go out and do the same thing for themselves. And also, I love to try to teach art. I've taught some classes, and these people who don't think they're artists at all, and I'm just come on, who cares? It's just part of the journey, and let's just try it. And some of them have had fun with it and kept going. And so, anyway, that's how I think I can inspire people.
Well, and I love that because, again, in going back to that metaphor with that bag, that we have all these different tools, but it does take some intentionality and pausing and saying, okay, so what does this next phase look like, and how am I going to transition well out of that? And I was thinking, Julia, my dad, who is in his 80s,
he was in class with us.
And he was in class with you, and he takes it so seriously what that professor said. And but again, how encouraging, inspiring that is. That as we move into this sort of next chapter, that there's room for continual growth, for continual inspiration. And a lot of times we just need a little bit of nudge and encouragement. So let's talk a little bit about your work, because in your work, it's about capturing moments. And I love that. I've always been really drawn to those still lifes, whether it's a Vermeer, those greats, of course, that do still lives. But so when you're looking at a subject, what causes you to say, this is it? Like, what do you look for in capturing those moments?
Well, when I'll like go through people's Facebook pictures, sorry, and I'll just like snoop through their photos, and then every once in a while I'll just see one. I'm just like, man, that would make a great picture. And what it is like candid, and it's usually connection. So people I love pictures where people are looking at each other in conversation or just something, but there's some sort of a touch. There's some sort of, in the picture, they're connecting with each other, or their pet, or their space that they're in, or whatever. It's just kind of like, I want to capture relationship. Relationship is really important to me, and being able to remember those moments in a piece of art is so much better than just having it on your phone. It kind of elevates it to a more important level in your life, and something that you really want to remember. And to having a piece of art made out of just a photograph is super cool to me. And I just like, that's what I like. And it's hard to find those pictures. It's hard, a lot of times everybody's like staring into the camera, smiling, and hamming it up for the camera. But
selfies.
It's hard to find a picture with people that don't have their hand in their phone. So but I do see them, and I don't know how to to contact somebody and say, man, that would make a great picture. I want to paint it for you. So I haven't quite figured that out yet.
Well,
but,
honestly, I think people would be flattered. I mean, unless you absolutely don't know them, and they're who's this weird woman who's reaching out to me and wants to paint me? But if there's a connection there, I think. And Julia, as you were saying that, I just had this thought, because when you're talking about how art, instead of just a picture, how when you paint a person, it kind of elevates that image. And I think there's, again, something that's really becoming kind of fleeting in our culture. Everything is fast. We can take a million pictures, we take a million selfies, and then when you pause and you paint that, again, it's that word pause, and you're very intentional. And there's something too about preserving it. You're gonna hang it on the wall rather than just have it in your Facebook feed. It was my mom's birthday, and we had lunch with her recently, and she has saved tons and tons of old letters. And it was very fun, because she actually read a letter that our grandmother had written to my sister's 13th birthday. And again, it's almost like these legacy things that we're really letting go. And so I think that's a little bit what you're talking about.
I think so too. It just dignifies the moment.
Dignifies the moment. I love that. Yeah. Dignify the moment. Note that, you guys. Dignify the moment. That is a great thing. So, by the way, what is a squirrel hair mop paintbrush?
Well, I was actually taking classes.
Squirrel mop. Now, it's not made from squirrel hair, is it?
It is, yeah.
Oh, it is.
It really is. And I was taking that class over at Saddleback with Karen's dad and her sister, and I was, I just having troubles with it. And Angie had these great brushes, and so she just said, "Why don't you try this?" And it's just a paintbrush, but it's made out of squirrel hair, and it just soaks up the water, and it just makes these great washes. And it really honestly like transformed my
Wow.
painting from like where you could see a lot of the strokes and all that
Yeah.
to kind of like just these great washes. So I have to thank Ange if you're watching. Thank you for that. Like that was the best ever. And then she just gave it to me. I was like, "What? You're just giving it to me?" She's like, "Yeah." So
Aw.
anyway, it's broken. I've had to get some new ones since
Yeah.
then. But
And watercolor is so much about some mediums like oil you can layer, but watercolor really
Right.
the looser. It's actually what I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of the most difficult mediums to do.
people
well.
say that. I mean, they say that all the time. I don't feel that way, but maybe it's just because it just I kind of get it. But yeah, I think oil's like crazy. But yeah, once you can't. It's pretty finicky. Like after a certain point, you can't fix it. So
Right.
I've had portraits that I'm working on, and you know the face is like that big,
Yeah.
and the something will be wrong, and I can only fix it like 1 or 2 times. And then
Yeah.
after that, I can't because it'll tear the fibers in the paper,
Yeah.
and then it just like the paint just kind of like spiders into it, and it's like it's
Start
pretty
over.
much ruined. Yeah. So you kind of want to do those important parts first so that you get them right, so you don't ruin the whole painting. If you've
Right.
already spent hours and hours everywhere else and you save that part for the last, then you're in trouble if
Yeah.
it doesn't turn out. So
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's, but
Yeah, no, I love watercolor. I think it's just an absolutely beautiful
yeah, I like
medium,
it
and you
too.
do it very, very well.
Thanks.
So, as we've shared a lot, we're obviously heart connected for
Yeah.
life, and it's interesting. As we shared at the beginning, we actually knew each other before both of us were married, and kind of have lived this life, and we've really kind of been those friends where we've bounced in and out over the years, but again, deep connection and intimacy when we do come together. I just think there's just a lot of joy and delight when we see each other. And one of the things, of course, that really bonds us is our common faith and belief in a creator. And so I'd love to hear how that plays into your art and kind of what your thoughts are in terms of being a created being, having a creator who's creative. And so tell us a little bit about that.
That's a good question. It's a very depth-filled conversation, so I'll just try to touch on it. But before I started doing art, I felt like I really lived my life intentionally. Like everything had to be for a purpose and some kind of a tangible purpose, whether it was building relationships or doing ministry or whatever. I just had to like so art seemed like very frivolous to me. It seemed like it was not practical to do art, and it had no eternal value, you know. So I just really struggled about like actually making that jump into actually doing that, even though I knew like it was like, yes, it's worthy, like God gives you these talents and you should use them or whatever. But I just struggled with that a lot. And then we used to go to New Song Church, and they had a guest speaker, Sky Japani, and he did a talk, and it was called why plant roses when the world is burning, or something like that.
So great title. I like that.
It was a great title.
Yeah.
And it was a bunch of artists were sitting around talking, and they're like, how can we create art? How can we write literature? How can we do any of that when there's war all around us? This was like a long time ago. And so he kind of opens up with that question, which is how I feel like, how can you just sit around paint in your house by yourself and you're not affecting the world around you at all? And he goes on and he explains a lot. I would love to leave the link with you guys if we can, just so you could watch it yourself or listen to it yourself.
We can certainly put that on the
Okay,
post.
so anyway, he explains like how important as created in our God's image, that we are created to be creative, and that how much God adores things, and that he has put things in this world just for the sheer beauty of it. Like it doesn't have to be practical. And that, the long story it's a lot longer than that, but that's kind of the point. Like I was just like, how can I do something impractical? But he was saying about how it gives hope to people, and it brings dignity to people, and there's so many reasons that we should create beauty as Christians.
Yes.
And so for me to make that change, I had to believe that first in my own heart and accept that as it was a noble. It was like, not that it was a noble cause. It was just like it was something that was not a waste of my time
Yeah.
here in the world. And so I was able to have faith that that was what I was supposed to be doing. And I feel like I do make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
When I give them a painting and the joy that it brings to them, or that even sometimes, like I was at a gallery for a little while and people would see some of my paintings. There was this one in particular that people would just stop and they'd talk about it and they'd look at it and then they'd smile and they go, I remember, blah, blah, you know, they're like kind of get excited about it, and they're not buying it or anything, but it was just like, it gave me such joy to see them having a moment.
Enjoy it.
Yeah. And my art's not like deep. Like it's not like something you have to figure out. Like when you look at the pictures that I paint, it's very right there. Like, oh, this is a connection. This is a happy moment. This is a dog making a funny face, you know, like, so it's like, they're not like, you don't have to stare at it and figure out what I'm trying to say. It's just that happy moment. And, I've tried to get deep with my art, but it's just like, I don't want to, because it's just like, I want to bring joy. I don't want people to have to like, there's enough other things to look at that are hard to look at.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to be that person that's bringing more of that into the world. So,
Julia, and again, just as you were talking about being image bearers, I mean, I think, you know, God is the God of beauty, and that is who he is.
Right.
And, you know, we live in this beautifully created world. I mean, go out in your garden back here and it's, you know, it's amazing. I mean, love the outdoors, love that, because I think more than, I read a quote, and I don't want to take claim for something that's not mine, but that beauty is a great evangelist. It's sometimes greater than words, because I think there is this deep haunting and longing in all of us to know the Creator. And again, when you create, you are reflecting his image to the world. And when you create something of delight, you know, I love how the creation story says, and God saw, and it was good, and it was very good. And there was obviously, he delighted in his creation.
Yeah.
So just some of those things that you said, I think are just so true. And I don't think, you know, delight doesn't have to be profound. A lot of times it's just spontaneous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Which so brings me to my next point, because you paint animals a lot. So talk to us about that. My pets, my animals.
So
and
mostly
we
dogs.
should get your cute little puppy here in the picture. But
it kind of just happened.
Yeah.
I didn't set out to draw dogs. I really want to do children portraits. That's kind of like where I started with the whole thing, which I have done very few children portraits for commissions, but people love their dogs. They love them. I love my dog. Everybody loves their dog. And then when their friend's dog dies, they're like, I don't know what to do. So they like want a painting of the dog. And talk about something God created just for our enjoyment.
Yeah.
Like,
why dogs?
Why dogs? Like, well, we love them and they love us, and they bring us so much joy. And they're pretty easy to paint, because you don't have to worry if you miss the dimple or something.
Yeah.
So I enjoy doing dog portraits, and I don't mind doing them. They don't take me super long time to do. And people get really excited about it. I've had people break into tears, you know, when they see these dogs, and then or just that they took the time and invested some money in it for their friend or their families, or their dad or mom or something, that where a dog passed away, and that dog was like super important to the family, so that they wanted to have a memory of it. So I do dog portraits. I'm not such a cat person. I don't do cats. I probably shouldn't say that, but
well, maybe you have to grow into the cat space. I was just telling Julia, my son and his girlfriend, they have a cat that they actually train and walk on.
It's a cute picture.
On a leash and take skiing. They train the cat to sit in the backpack while they are skiing. So so cats can be.
I may do that for you.
Cats could be underrated. They could be a stretch for you.
Yeah.
But and again, it's really interesting how we as a culture have evolved in that dog space, because I was in Stater Brothers, grocery store the other day, and the guy behind me had his pug, obviously not a service dog. Had them in the grocery store, and we, you know, have restaurants that are now dog friendly. And again, I think it speaks volumes of where we are as a society, where despite all of social media and everything we do, have this sense of isolation, and there's just something wonderful that a pet can fill sort of that hole in your heart, huh? That space.
They do. They just always are so unconditional.
They are. That is truly amazing, right? Okay, so as we're getting close to our finish here, really quickly, start to finish, like, so you go online or you get a commission. What is the process?
Typically for commissions, people, it's mostly still friends of friends that I'm getting commissions from, and somebody will call me and they'll ask, am I interested? Like, they kind of tell me what they want, and I usually direct them to my website, because there's a whole, on my website, it's got all my pricing and everything, and that way I don't have to think about like, I mean, it's just all set in stone, kind of how much I charge for each thing. And then we do the process of trying to find a picture. And sometimes they'll give me access to their photos, and sometimes they have one specific photo that they really want. Sometimes those photo references are not great, and I have to like try to edit them a little bit for lighting and that kind of stuff. Those are harder to do because you know, you're just trying to guess like what somebody's face looks like, and it's in shadow, and you can't. So those are a little bit harder. So I really try to work with it. I've gotten bolder with people and saying, no, you know, that's just not going to work. I can't paint that, but let's look for something else.
Right.
And so we kind of go through this little dance of trying to find a suitable picture, and then I take a deposit, and I just get started. And what I usually do is enlarge it and crop it, and then I transfer it onto my watercolor paper, and sometimes I get it on the first shot, and sometimes, like the one I'm showing you right now, I've done it four times, and I'm still not happy with it. So, but I also, there's a lot of thought that goes into it. Like, usually as soon as I find the picture, it's like I think about it for days. Like, so it's, even though I may not be painting on it, I'm processing the picture.
Like almost creating an emotional connection.
Yeah, I usually need to have a connection with it of some sort. Like, maybe just something like I don't love the picture, but because I love the connection that those people have and the joy that I know that they get from each other, then that makes me happy, and then I can paint it. I had one of those where I was just kind of like not happy about the photograph. Was actually a photo that had been a professional photograph and had been retouched, so it had like no lighting on it. It was it was just flat. It was just flat, you know. So it's kind of like, ugh. But I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to create some lighting and stuff on it. Sometimes I'll leave like a mistake. I don't know if it's a mistake. We call them happy accidents in watercolor. Sometimes I'll leave like a blotch or something on a person's face or somewhere, but I feel like it just makes it look more painterly instead of just like this. I don't want to exactly copy the photograph. I want it to look like it's a painting.
Right, that makes sense.
And so I don't always try to keep it exactly perfect.
Right.
But yeah, it takes me about 2 weeks. Like, and then after I get done painting it and I'm kind of happy with it, I leave it up in the house somewhere and I just look at it for a couple days. And then my son, Dustin, he's an accountant, and he's really good at finding incongruities. And so he'll,
whether you want him to or not, right?
I actually employ him for this, because I'm just like, Dustin, tell me what's wrong. You know, like those pictures you do when you're a kid, and you have to like find out, here's one picture and here's another one, what's different? And he was really good at that. So he's good at that with my art. So I'll show him my painting. I'm like, what do you think? And he'll be like, well, like in the picture, like her face is like this, but over here it's this, you know, like, so, or he'll say, yeah, you gotta watch that double chin or something, you know. So I like to run it by him before I actually like show it to the person. The hardest thing for me is when I do a long distance portrait and I have to like show them digitally the final product. before I ship it to them or I send it to them, because I send it and then I'm on pins and needles like, oh, do they like it? Or it's like I have to wait.
Well, that was going to be my question, because of course I have this image of Fixer Upper, you know, how they go and they fix up the house, reveal. Then they have the big reveal. And so how do people react?
So I love it when I get like a great, you know, text back. But I love it with lots of exclamation marks or something. I'm like, yes, that's it. I'm so in love. I've had some great things. And then every once in a while I'll get one where I can kind of tell, like, maybe they're not 100% happy with it. And then I'm like texting back, like, so let me know your thoughts. Like, and I try to like
give you permission not to like.
I do give them permission not to like it because, I mean, just
you want them to be happy.
I do. Yeah. I really, truly do. And sometimes there's some things I can fix. Yeah. Sometimes I have to tell them, like, I can only fix this once, or I don't think I've ever told anybody I couldn't fix it. Usually my problem is not going dark enough. So sometimes people say it needs to be a little bit darker. And I like that, because I feel like then we're working on it together. Right. So sometimes some people want to be involved in the process and see it along the way. And I'm totally fine with that, because if they're kind of like...
helps you out.
It does. Yeah. It does. And then at the end, I'm not like on pins and needles. Like, I put all this work into it and they don't like it. Right. But that way... But also, it's kind of fun to do the big reveal. And I like being in person where I can see their face. Yeah, that's like the best. Because then I think I told you earlier, this one lady, I did a picture of her son and dad, the father, walking on this path. And she just started crying. It was so cute. And I'm just like... wow, like that's
almost payment enough, right?
Yeah, that's what you want. Yeah. And that's awesome. That's why I do it. So if I don't get to see that, I just get a text. So I have to be happy with that. Yeah. And then I mail it to them, and I don't get to see them open it or anything. Yeah. So I do a lot of that. I do a lot of like long distance stuff. Yeah.
Which I guess since you're working from photographs, that's fairly doable. Then.
Right, and so people, especially the dog ones, like people, I do get those from all over the country. Wow. They're not just like local people. Wow. Some friends of friends on Facebook. So I do a lot on Facebook. I post my pictures on Facebook or Instagram, and so people see them, and then they're like, "Oh, I want that."
Yeah. What a great gift. Hey, and Mother's Day is literally just a few months away. So, okay, so really quickly then, how do you see the future moving along? What does the future hold?
Yeah, so I've kind of taken a little bit of a break. I think I told you some health stuff going on, but I'm back on the mend here and really just getting started again. I'm kind of doing a little bit of a reset and a pause with just like figuring out what's next for me right now. Like, so I'm starting to like rethink where I want to go next, but I really do want to get into the children portrait thing. So I have to start making some more of my own personal ones, just examples to put out there, and I'll put on Facebook and as I paint them. So I have a couple that I've already got picked out in the queue, ready to paint. Very and I'll start that. And then in May, on May 15th, I'm going to be a guest artist at the Cottage Gallery in San Juan Capistrano, and that will be for 2 months. And then it's like possible could be a permanent artist there. But so I have to prepare some stuff for that, because most of my work is commissioned work, so I don't have a lot of home. I don't have a lot of inventory, and it's people. They're commissions of people that they know, but that aren't really for sale for the public. So I need to develop, which I have all my sketches and everything ready. I just need to actually implement my sketches into artwork. But I have some stuff that would be maybe more interesting to somebody just like that came and was in a gift shop and saw like a, you know, something.
A fun keepsake for them.
Yes. Maybe a memory of California. Awesome. There's a lot of tourists in that area, but a lot of locals.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're ever down in San Juan, by the Mission down there, very, very fun place to hang around in Orange County, Southern California for an afternoon.
So I'm looking forward to that, and that will definitely push me into a space of having to create on a regular basis, because you have to change out your art every 2 months. And to do that, I'll like set up a editorial calendar. So like each month I'll have a theme and work on that, and then that way it'll just be set up. I don't have to like figure it out every month. Like, what am I going to paint? What am I going to paint?
Oh, I love that.
Have it kind of set up. So,
all right. So final questions here. How do people get a hold of you if they're interested in working with you? And then leave us with favorite book, resource, and a favorite quote.
Oh, wow.
3 things.
Can I remember all 3? So you can find me at juliahayashi.com.
And I think I did put that on the thing. We'll link it down below.
And then I'm on Instagram at Hayashi_watercolors. And so I usually post more of my artwork on the Instagram than I do on the Facebook page. I started to do like a blog on the Facebook page a long time ago, and then it got super public, and I just got so I kind of quit doing that. But anyway, I need to get back on that. I highly recommend that Max Lucado book. What I call it, A Cure for the Common Life. It helped me. I think it would help a lot of people who are trying to figure out what to do next if you don't know, or if you just need the courage to kind of like make that step. And
he's such an easy
read,
to
read, yeah. And it's just the questions like taking some time. So that, and then I do have the link. Can we just write that?
We can totally add that to the sermon. Talk.
And then. So I have a couple of favorite quotes. One of them is, "You have to want it more than you're afraid of it."
That's a good
one. That one really got, because I was afraid at all of this. Till every step of the way, it was scary. Like putting yourself out there, showing people what you do, and then just talking about yourself. Super uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
Like I had to be like, okay, like I'll put this on Facebook. I'll show people, and I'll say the word, "I'm an artist." And that was really hard for me to first start. So anyway, but I wanted it, and I had to get over that fear of that. And then I'm going to read this one. "Will my faith acted upon and firmly embraced cause my life and activity to be an inspiration to someone else to become a better person or to achieve more in their life?" I think about that a lot, and I really hope that just me, like we talk about ordinary people, you don't get more ordinary than me, and I just hope that if any of you guys out there are thinking about something that you've wanted to do for a long time, just like don't be afraid of it. Just do it, and one day at a time. Yeah.
Well, Julia, you are far, far from ordinary in my book, and
so
you know that.
Yeah.
I adore you, and I'm so grateful that we have been blessed with being called friends for these many years, and especially coming into this latter season of, well, you're an almost empty nester. I thought I was, and now we have a fourth son.
You keep coming back.
Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us, and hope you enjoy the talk and you're inspired in some way, and that you just take a nugget from here and that it makes your life a little bit more beautiful. We love you.
Love you.
Bye. Bye.